Hi everyone, welcome back to Bernina Club. We are now May and still in lockdown, so we have to have Bernina Club in my home again, in my studio. Today I'm going to be showing you different ways you can use elastics for making your winter garments. I've been doing quite a bit of sewing for my grandchildren, so I'm going to show you a couple of ways of doing your elastic waist. Mainly because there's different elastics out there now. Some of them are very thick and bulky, and when you join them together it is very uncomfortable. So I'm going to show you that. The other thing I've realized, a lot of people are coming in and buying online fabrics and not understanding that a lot of the fabrics you buy now, the winter fabrics, don't have any stretch like they used to. So when we used to get sweatshirting, it used to have quite a bit of stretch, and now our sweatshirtings don't have a lot of stretch. However, polar fleece does have a little bit of stretch. So how do you know you're making the right size pattern for the garment you're actually wanting to make? So a lot of people don't realize that on the back of patterns, so here's a much loved pattern that I've made for my children and now my grandchildren, which is hilarious. So it's full circle and it's pretty manky, but on the back you can see a little chart here, okay, and it shows you 10 centimeters of fabric, and it needs to stretch to at least the other mark for it to be able to fit correctly for this pattern. So if I get 10 centimeters of fabric here, I'm going to just mark it with a pin to show you. So I'm going to get 10 centimeters of fabric, and take a tape measure with you when you go to the stores, because you do need to test you're buying the right fabric. Okay, so here's 4 inches or 10 centimeters of fabric to here, right? It needs to stretch to at least, wrong end, it needs to stretch to at least 13 centimeters by the back of the pattern's markings. So 10 centimeters to 13. So it's not a huge big stretch. So as long as it's stretched to there or it stretches more, you can use that fabric for your pattern. So I'm just going to lay this down this way, and I'm going to get my 10 centimeters. My pin's just fallen out. There's my 10 centimeters or 4 inches, and I need to stretch it to at least 13. Easy. So this polar fleece fabric will be okay to make that garment. All right, so if it didn't stretch past that 10, I would not use that fabric, because this is for a stretch knit only. So it's really important that you know the basics when you're going to buy a pattern or what size to make. So if it's a sweatshirting, or if it's a fabric like this that's got no stretch, I wonder if I've got a bit in the rubbish. Here we go. If you've got a bit of fabric, I'm just stealing some out of my rubbish bin. If you've got a bit of fabric here, and we go 10 centimeters of fabric, there's my 10 centimeters, and I try and stretch it, it can't stretch at all, so I can't use that fabric. And it's a cotton anyway. But this fabric here, which is Winceyette, has absolutely no stretch. So I could not use it for this pattern. People go, oh, just make it a size bigger or something like that. But patterns only go up by a centimetre roughly per size. So even if I made this garment out of a bigger size, it still would not fit, and it would be very frustrating. So don't waste your money or your time doing the wrong thing. Now, if you're going to mix, like I have done, if you're going to mix a stretch fabric with a cotton fabric, you can do it on parts that don't matter, like the collar and the pocket, which is floating around somewhere. So this is the collar of a hoodie, and it won't matter that those are woven and a stretch fabric, because it's not something that's going to be pulled on and be a problem. The sleeve has obviously got a little bit of give, but not too much, because it's going around the curve, but it's the same weight fabric. Oh, here's the pocket in here. So I'm going to use the woven and the polar fleece for my pocket, and again that won't matter because I would rather my pocket not stretch anyway. But instead of having my lining fabric on the inside of my garment, I've decided to have the lining fabric, because it's so pretty, on the outside of my garment. Now this is actually sensible because when the children put their hands in, they've got the lovely soft fabric on the inside, and I've done the same for the hood. I'm going to make the hood with the lining on the outside and the soft fabric on the inside, so when they pull it up, they've got the soft fabric on the inside, and it makes for a nice feature. So the first things first, choose your correct fabric. Then the other thing you need to know is what needle to use. So I'm going to be using cotton, and I'm going to be using a fabric with a little bit of stretch. However, the standard needle has a little bit, it's kind of a half ballpoint, so you can get away with an 80 sharp. If I was working with a fabric that was fully stretchy, like, you know, a really, really stretchy fabric, I would put in a ballpoint needle or a stretch needle. Now, if I was using either of those needles and I still got skip stitches when I sewed, that means your fabric might have microfiber in it, and you need to buy a Microtex needle. Goodness, there's so many things. So we have these little booklets at work, and they teach you all about the needles, and also Bernina do have an app that you can download about needles and feet, and it's worthwhile doing that. So anyway, I'm just going to show you how I'm going to do these couple of things, just so you get a bit of a feel about using your fabrics, whether it's stretch or whether it's cotton. So the first thing I do is, if you've got a jewel feed on your machine, you can put your jewel feed on. This is going to help with the feeding of your fabric. If you've got a walking foot and you're working with different fabrics, just put it on the machine and leave it on for your normal fabrics. So I'm going to be working with a woven and a semi-stretch type fabric, and then a really, really stretchy ribbing. Now I could make just about all of this up on the overlocker, which I've done. I've done a lot of stitching with the overlocker, but the one thing I don't do with the overlocker is joining my ribbings together. Now the reason being, when people join their ribbings together with an overlocker, it makes it very, very thick. And when you get to come back to classes, you can feel the difference, but it's also good to sew it so you can actually have a really good feel of the difference. When you sew these on a sewing machine with a straight stitch, you're left with a nice flat seam. The other thing is, when you sew elastics together, so you're going to sew the elastic together and you're going to sew it round like here. Normally we do it together and it makes it very thick. When we sew a thicker elastic together, it makes it even thicker. So I'm going to show you how you make a nice flat finish joining your elastics together today. And also I'm going to be showing you how this corded elastic is fantastic when you're sewing for children, because you don't have to try and work out their waist measurement. So much better. So yeah, there's a few things going on. Okay, so first things first, I have got just my jewel feet on, because I'm going to use my ordinary 1 foot, my standard foot. I am going to sew my cotton fabric, and then I'm going to sew my semi-stretch fabric. Now you can see on polar fleece it has a definite right and wrong side, the fluffy side being the right side, the wrong side being the dull side. So the first things you do is put your right side to right side, and you can pin or clip together however you want to do it. I use clips a lot in my sewing now. I don't use pins like I used to, so I'm just going to clip that together. I'm not going to show you the whole garment, but I just want to show you how using your cotton and your stretch fabrics is absolutely fine together, as long as it's not for something that's having to fit around your body. So this is just a hood, makes absolutely no difference, and the pocket is just simply a pocket and it won't make any difference. Now when you're going to be doing a pocket, this pocket is all in one, so it's a little pouch pocket. So I've chosen the fairy fabrics because all my granddaughters love fairies. And with this one, I'm going to actually sew these two together. Okay? With the hood, I'm sewing them separately. All right? So I'm just going to do, I don't really need to do a zigzag, I can just straight stitch them. And for this one, I am going to sew up here, and I'm going to go across here, and I'm just thinking about it, am I? No, I'm just going to go up here, and I'm going to go up here, because I'm going to stitch it to my garment and turn it over. Will it be too thick? I'm thinking about it. I think I'll sew up here, across here, down here, then I'll just top stitch it onto my garment, okay? So you've got to decide how you'd like to do it. So I've fussy cut my fairy so she's sitting in the middle of my pocket. And now I'm just going to do right side to right side and clip her on. So just, there's so many different ways you can do things, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of an insight into something that I've been playing around with, and it's a little bit of fun. And with all the grandies, they all have their things that they love. Now for adult sewing, it is really lovely to add cotton fabric to our garments as well. So this is another idea you can take through to your own garments. Just really nice, and it makes a nice finish. Match your fabric up, something that's going to blend with most things that you're doing. I don't be too fussy. I've got white in my bobbin. I've got a mauvey colour on top. With polar fleece, the thread sinks into the polar fleece and you don't need to worry. So I'm just going to put my machine on straight sewing, and I think I've just got it set on normal stitch length, 2.5, and I'll just grab my little pocket there and I will just reverse that part. Now, I've got my needle down, so every time I stop sewing, my needle is down, so it makes it nice and easy for me. So if my fabric moves or anything and I want to move something around, I can simply do it because my needle's down. When I get up to here, I'm going to treat it like a right angle, and I'm going to stop sewing the same distance here as I'm sewing widthwise. I'm going to lift, I'm going to turn, I'm going to do 2 stitches because the fabric's thicker, and then I'm going to turn fully. So instead of 1 on normal cotton fabric, I'm doing 2. When I get to the end here, I'm stopping, I'm lifting, I'm doing 1, and I'm doing 2 because the fabric's thicker. Then I'm turning. I'm just going to plug my iron in, and I'm going to get my point turner. Okay, so here's my point turner. So remember, when you're doing these things, don't always go chopping off that point. Always turn them through first and see if you need to get rid of the bulk. I probably will need to get rid of a bit because I've got polar fleece behind cotton. So what I might do is I might just trim a little bit of the polar fleece away. Not too much, because otherwise you can ruin the shape. Just a little bit like that. Okay? And then I'm just going to put my finger up, and you know how I do this. So fold one down so it's towards you, and then fold the other one on top, and then with your finger push it through, and you'll get a nice finish. And remember, it's not going to be a sharp point because you're working with polar fleece. So again, come this way. Always do it away from you here, towards you, sorry, away from you. And there, and there. And then poke it through. Cool. And then just give it a very light press. You do not want to put a lot of heat on the polar fleece because it will melt. All right? So there's my cute little front pocket for my garment. Now, if this was a lightweight, I would not do it like this, but because this is quite bulky, I'm just going to be top stitching this edge on. Normally I'll show you. This is what I would normally do if it's a lighter weight, or I was doing 1 layer. I would sew my raw edge of my pocket over and I would flip it down. But this time I'm going to top stitch it on because it's quite thick. Okay? How cute is that? So I'm just going to give that a little press. I do use my little iron station a lot instead of a really big iron because I find it's convenient and very, very easy to use. That's a little bit cute. And what you want to do is you want to get the halfway mark of your pocket here. And this is a real feature on this garment because it's only for a little one. The pockets are a little bit oversized, and I've made the hoodie a little bit oversized, so it makes a cute little feature on a little one. And so this is going on, and I'm just lining that up there. Okay, you can see how that's just lining up. So I'm just going to put a pin through here. Actually, I sew this way. I'm going to put a pin through here and a pin through here. And I'm just going to put a couple of clips down the bottom here because great cutting, Robin. Now, so when I go to sew this on, I find the best thing, oh, no, stop. Stop, hold the phone. Before you do that, this is your only time to top stitch down the sides of your pocket. So you can decide if you want a nice narrow top stitch. I think I'll use the foot width because I think it'll look really, really nice, having a little bit wider. So I'm just going to line up my foot. Now, because I'm top stitching, I'm going to lengthen my stitch out. So I'm going to go right out to 3. And I'm just going to lengthen my stitch out. And I'm going to go all the way to the top. And when I get to the top, I'll just do a little reverse and lock that off. So it's nice and strong. And then this time I'll start from the top. And go down to the bottom. So nearly forgot that step, and now I have to halve it again, as you do. Okie doke. So we'll do that again. Nothing like being shown something twice so you don't forget. So get your halfway mark. Halve your pocket. Oh, it's going to be so toasty with their little hands in there. And pop it onto here. Okay, you can trim all that off later so it's nice and even. That looks really cute. It makes a really plain little top into something a little bit cuter. Okay. So this time I want to do a narrow top stitch. I want it quite close to that, and then I might do another one further away. So I can do one of two things. I can use my foot and I can move my needle position to the right, or I could put on the edge stitch foot. If I'm doing something quick like this, I would probably leave that foot on. If I was doing a whole lot of them all in the same row, I would then take my foot off and do it. So I'm just going to use my ordinary foot, and I'm going to do my first row. And what I'm going to do is I am going to do it right from the edge of the fabric, and I'm going to move the needle position 2 clicks to the left, and I'm going to do 1 row over here. So it's going to be a bit deeper. I'm going to go all the way to the end. Cut your threads when you're sewing is a really good idea as you go, so you don't end up with a mess. Now, when I get to the end here, I could go back and put my needle position over, but I won't get as close as I want. So I am going to put my number 10 foot on because it's just so much better. So this one is the edge stitch foot number 10. This one's also got a dual feed on my machine, and I'm just going to put my bar of my number 10 foot against my fabric, and I'm going to move my needle position to the left. I'm going to have it 3 clicks to the left. I'm going to go forward and reverse, and I'm going to go all the way to the end. Now I am watching my bar of my foot running against the edge of my fabric, and that's giving me a perfect edge. Okay. Now what I'm also going to do is I'm just going to whip along here because I need to trim this off and make it nice and straight. But I'm just going to whip along here to hold it. So I don't have to worry about that when I put my ribbing on. All right. So that's just a fun way of doing a pocket. Obviously I'm not going to show you the whole garment, but yeah, cute little way of doing a pocket. Okay, now for the hood, because I'm working with my cotton fabric and my woven fabric, the only thing you need to be a little bit aware of is when you join the two together. So I'm just going to, I'll show you this. I have before, but I'll show you again. When you're using a foot that doesn't have a side opening like this, it doesn't have the little slit on the side there. This foot doesn't have it. So what I do is I just lift the foot up and I just put the needle through the foot so I can pull my thread out. That's how I just do it. I think I've shown you probably more than once, more than twice, but it always pays to see it again. It's just really quick and easy. So go forward and reverse. And I'm just doing the foot width this time for my hood. I've changed the shape of the hood because it was really, really big, and I just trim it off to suit the person it's for, because otherwise they're a little bit too oversized. Now, a lot of people would think they need to overlock this as well. You do not need to, because it's going to be inside your other part of your garment and it is not going to fray, all right? So you do not need to over sew. People over sew a lot. So if that was overlocked and this was overlocked, it would make it very thick. So don't do it. You just don't need to do it. Okay? Now with this one, I'm just going to lengthen it out a bit because it is a thicker fabric, and I don't need to do a stretch stitch on this because there is hardly any stretch in this particular area where I'm sewing, because I'm going up the straight grain. It's not a lot of stretch at all. So come all the way around to here. Now to join these together, all I'm going to do is open this up and open this up and put my seam to seam. Now if you want to go pressing the seams one side and all of that, that's absolutely fine. You can push one way and one the other. In fact, you could even open them up if you wanted to. I'm just going to push one seam one way and one seam the other so it sits flat, okay? And just give it a clip. And then you can just simply put your hood inside here. Now you can see there's a little bit of ease there, all right? Because this fabric, if I let it go, would stretch probably, I could stretch it onto there. So there's a little bit of ease in there. And you know, when you're doing a cotton and a fabric that's got a little give, you can always cut this one a little bit smaller. It's not a problem. You can just trim it a little bit smaller because it's not going to hurt. So I'm just going to sit it flat. I'm not going to pull or push it. And then I'll just let it do its own thing because I can always trim a little bit off. It's not going to hurt. Okay. And again, I'm just going to clear that so it does a normal stitch length. And I've forgotten my jewel feed. My jewel feed's now on. It's really handy just having those clips. It's so much quicker and easier. If you notice, when I'm doing things like this, I put my hand underneath my fabric here, so I can hold my underneath fabric so my raw edges are together. So you can see that when raw edges are together, it's going to be nice and even. And I love the needle down. You cannot beat the needle down. Then I clip this one when I get to it. I don't clip it all at once because it just, clips get in the road. I just clip it when I get there. As long as you've got the end clipped. Now come round, move everything out of the road. Bring your raw edges together and then put your hand under there so you can make sure that you're keeping them nice and even. Okay, so my hand in between the two pieces, and you can move it out so you get it even. Nice and easy. So So you're kind of pushing the polar fleece one under, and it's keeping it nice and straight. You can see that there. I just realised just a minute ago that I have my lock-off function on, so I don't need to reverse at the beginning and the end. Okay, once you've pressed it all, your seams, then you turn it through. And you can press it, or in this case, you can just clip it, and then you top stitch, and then that hood is ready to go onto your garment. Very, 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 very easy and really cute. Really nice. But even on an adult's one, I was somewhere, I must have seen it online actually, and they had hoodies and they had the contrast fabric on the inside, which is normal for adults. But I just thought on children, it would be cute on the outside. So that's how you do your contrast fabrics to go onto garments. I just thought it was a nice, quick, easy way to show you. And once I have clipped this, I will then top stitch it, and it's all done. So nice and easy. So what I'll do is I'll show you a garment I've finished, so you can see what it looks like finished. But that's how easy it is to do a cute little hood with fabric on the outside and a cute little pocket with a fabric on the outside. So have you got one more minute? Yeah, he said he got one more minute. So here's a garment I've made. And this one I have made a little jacket. And for this one I have shown you that I've made it on the sewing machine. I haven't overlocked any seams at all. I'm just keeping it just done on the sewing machine to show you. With this, it doesn't fray, so you don't have to worry. The one part I am going to overlock, and I'm going to show you after the break, is I'm going to overlock this but with a single overlock stitch on my sewing machine. And for this one I've done pockets that are separate because there's a zip going in there, and I've done little cuffs that fold up to show you the cute little fabric as well. So this jacket, I will confess, I've had cut out for 3 years. I wasn't making it for anyone in particular. It was just cut out, and I went, yeah, it's probably time I did that. So after the break, I'm just going to show you a couple of little things and why I did them, because this is a nice feature to add to your own jackets. I really like a bit of fabric and turning up a cuff, and it's just a 3/4 sleeve. So I'll explain that after the break.